Hello everyone and welcome back to the vlog. I'm sorry I've been away for a little bit. I was in kind of a bad headspace, so I took a little bit of time off from video. Fortunately, I didn't take as much time off from writing as I took off from video, so I've still got some stuff that's going to be coming up soon, including new material for my Patreon page and for War Eternal that are both going to be coming out right after the first of the month, so keep an eye out for those. Make sure you sign up on those. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different in that I'm going to talk about a movie, and I know this is the second time I've talked about a movie on a literary blog vlog, but yeah, that's okay. Mostly because both of these have been movies that have been paramount to my childhood, and it's my blog, so I'm going to break the rules. They're my rules. I can break them if I want. Basically, I wanted to go over, because a lot of people have asked me my feelings on Batman vs. Superman, and rather than write it out repeatedly, I'm just going to make a video, that way I have a link to give everybody about what I thought about this movie. Okay, so really quickly, before we go any further with this, two quick points. The first one is going to be, this is a spoiler-filled review. For me to properly review a movie and what I liked about the plot and what I didn't, I'm going to have to address plot points. So, if you're the kind of person that doesn't like finding out about movies before you go see them, then, for God's sake, stop watching this review right now, go watch the movie, and then come back and tell me that I'm wrong, or right, whichever you want. Second point is going to be, this is not going to be a family-friendly review. Generally, I try to not use much profanity on my channel, or at all. In this case, there are points where the only way that I can properly express my vehemence is either lighting something in the room on fire or cursing at Zack Snyder. So, I have decided not to light things on fire, and thus there will be moments of profanity. They are, however, limited, so I am less profane about this video than, say, Movie Bob was about his, so, it is what it is. You'll either like it or you won't. With that in mind, now let's begin the review. Put it into a little bit of context, I have been a DC fan pretty much since birth. I think I might have actually come out of the womb with a Batarang. I have been a follower of Batman and Superman, have collected both comics, really knowledgeable about the genre, not only the principal storyline and continuity, but also some of the derivative continuities as well. Because one of the things you have to remember is that, and comic book fans forget this a lot, the comic book isn't just the comic book, it's all of the other pieces that go into the property as well. So you have animated shows, you have graphic novels, you have all kinds of other things that become part of the history of the character that aren't necessarily part of the continuity of the character. The reason why it's important to bring that up is, I have some notes that I'll be checking right here. The reason why it's really important to bring that up is one of the sticking points that came up was, you know, Henry Cavill said, the interesting thing is that we get critics who have their personal opinions, and the thing about personal opinions is that they always come from a place. Alright, which is fair. In retort, I'm going to say, you can't pick and choose when people use that place and when they don't. Because the entire reason why you have a 65-year-old character fighting a 75-year-old character in a movie is because people are going to come from a place, and that place is already being attached to these properties. Otherwise, it would be new man versus some guy, and nobody would care. So if you're going to use that place to make money, you better be willing to accept criticism from that place too. Okay? Let's be fair. That being said, the specific place I came from for this movie was, I wanted the movie to be good. I did not expect the movie would be good. So that's where we're going to start off. My opinion of the film is that it was a really good Superman movie hidden in a really bad Batman movie. And before anybody gets on me about Ben Affleck and how he did a tremendous job and he's the best Batman ever, I'm not disagreeing with that. Actors don't make movies good or bad. Actors improve or devalue the value of the script that they're given based on the direction that they're given. So you can have a really good actor do a really good part in a really bad movie. It's still a bad movie with a good role portrayal in it. Conversely, you can have a really good movie with an actor that's lame. The actor doesn't make it a bad movie. He makes a bad performance in a good movie. So I'm not taking anything away from Ben Affleck, and I'm going to go into that too. I'm saying that for story reasons, this was a bad movie. That's Americans particularly, I find, do that whole the portrayal was good, the movie is good thing, and it's not right. So I just wanted to hit that first. As far as the movie, I want to talk first about plot, metaplot, and subplot. This is really important to script writing, and I'm not saying that I've made $1 million movies. I'm not saying that I've written $1 million scripts. I'm saying I have written scripts, and I have written stuff in this genre. So this is my opinion of it. I'm not saying I could do a better job. I'm not going to turn down the opportunity to do a better job if somebody wants to throw $1 million script at me. However, I'm not saying I could do better. I'm not saying that I'm going to replace these people. I'm just giving my opinions because people have asked. Plot, metaplot, and subplots. The plot of when you're talking about superhero movies, the plot of the movie is actually generally not important. And the reason I say that is the plot of Batman vs. Superman is very simply Batman versus Superman. Okay, we know that neither one is going to kill the other one. We know that more than likely DC isn't going to let one actually defeat the other one in any kind of long-term meaningful sense. And we know that if Batman uses his science, he will beat Superman. If he doesn't have the opportunity to use science, Superman wins. The audience knows the entire plot of the movie going in, so the plot is meaningless. What becomes important is the subplots that are utilized and the metaplot. The metaplot in films is far more important than the actual plot line. The metaplot is why the audience wants to see the movie. The plot line is what the characters are doing. The metaplot is what the audience wants. And in this case, the meta was, we know there's going to be a third wheel that comes in. There's going to be somebody that grabs a steel chair and rushes the ring. Who is it going to be? That's your principal meta. Because, as an audience, we know Batman versus Superman, because they're both good guys, eventually have to turn on somebody else. Because they're not allowed to hate each other for very long. That's just the nature of comic books. There are 4 elements that you need to make a good Batman movie. And I'm also made a list of Superman. I'm not as solid on the Superman list. However, go back and watch everything that you've ever seen of Batman and Superman. Any of the animated series, any of the comic books, graphic novels, I don't care. Any of them that hit these 4 elements are a great story. Any of them that hit 3 is generally passable, good, acceptable, somewhere in that range. Any that hits 1 or 2 generally fails because it doesn't develop the character of Batman enough. Because these are the instances that the audience has come to look for. So your 4 elements of a Batman movie. Number 1, who is the real Batman? Who is the actual person? Is it the Batman or is it Bruce Wayne? You need to have interplay that questions which one is the act and which one is the real person. Because of your limited access to Bruce Wayne, because it was a shared film, this question is completely ignored. So we're 0 for 1. Second point is, who does more good for the city of Gotham? Batman or Bruce Wayne? In every other time you see this character treated, there will always be, Batman does this stuff. And then in the news report, you find out about this other thing that Bruce Wayne did in response because he's such a philanthropist. That's integral to the character. The idea that Batman / Bruce Wayne has to be the good cop, bad cop combination, and that Batman does things to punish and Bruce Wayne does things to help to support. That's integral to the character, and it is wholly ignored in this film. In fact, there is only even one comment where Bruce Wayne offhand mentions giving a donation to Clark Kent. The word philanthropist is used once in the whole film, and it's used about Lex Luthor, not about Bruce Wayne. So at this point, Bruce Wayne is a non-quantity in the film, and you're now 0 for 2. So you've got 0 out of the 4 that you need. Third point. Can he be the Bat without being Bruce Wayne? That, I mean, there always has to be situations where you try to have Batman decide Bruce Wayne is too much work, stop being Bruce Wayne, and just focus on being the avenging angel of Gotham. This one they hit. They hit pretty solidly. They hit so solidly that, in fact, Alfred has to remind Batman that he can go do things as Bruce Wayne. Which is solid, and honestly is part of what Alfred's foil usually is. So that was well done. The fourth one is the inverse. Can he be Bruce Wayne without being the Bat? This is the idea of, I can give up the Batman because I'm still doing good for the city of Gotham and I need to live my own life. Not touched. At all. No suggestion, no reference, with the exception of Alfred mentioning the fact that there are no heirs, and Bruce Wayne not even giving a retort. Like, again, this is a constant point that needs to be driven home in Batman movies and Batman storylines that was ignored. So, as far as making it a decent Batman movie, I feel they scored 1 out of 4 as far as the script rating goes. You know, your quintessential pieces that you need to make a good Batman movie, you got 1 out of 4. So, yeah, that is what it is. As far as the Superman list, I don't have a lock solid of a list because I think part of the reason is that Batman is an external character. You see his interactions with other people, where Superman is much more of an internal character. A lot of his interactions have to be more reserved, they are more internalized, and therefore not as scene-specific. Do you balance the 3 facets of Superman, as opposed to 2 for Batman? Which is to say, the public persona, Superman, the public persona, Clark Kent, and the actual person, Kal-El. There's never a question, is Superman the real Superman, or is Clark Kent the real Superman? Because Superman has a third identity, Kal-El. In this, I think they did possibly the best job I've ever seen, with, again, the possible exception of the first Reeves Superman movie. They did a really good job of having moments where, because Lois Lane already knows, and Ma and Pa Kent already know, they were able to have Kal-El be Kal-El without maintaining either the Clark Kent or the Superman persona. I think that was done really well, and it's in those moments where you really get to see the character, and it's important to keep focus on those moments because you need to see how he reacts so that you can see his reactions later on. I'll get into that. The second thing is, Superman must be good. Superman must be the Boy Scout. If he is not good, it's not a Superman movie. They did this very well. In the guise of Clark Kent, Superman questions why they're not talking more about the Batman. He asks the right kinds of questions. He demonstrates that he is a good guy and wants to see good things happen to people. So that's well taken care of. Third step, he must doubt his goodness and then recover from his doubt, becoming even stronger. That is your principal Superman arc in this movie, is can he still be Superman? Is Superman good? Is Superman causing more harm than good? Can he still be a hero? His entire storyline focuses on that. His interactions with Lois Lane, his interactions with Ma Kent, his interactions with Pa Kent. Everything that happens in this movie that is direct to him is about this point. So, again, in spades, you're 3 for 3 so far. Fourth is, does Superman win the day? Only because he has the assistance of mortals, generally those that he helped inspire to get to that point. The answer is yes. Again, you don't win this movie without the trio being there because Doomsday is the Doomsday. However, the trio is there, and the reason the trio is fighting is because Superman was still good. It works. You've batted for the cycle. 4 for 4 for Superman, 1 for 4 for Batman. So again, reinforcing my idea that this was a really good Superman movie hidden in a really bad Batman movie. Some people are upset that we saw Wayne's folks get murdered again. Mark Bernardin has the line, hey, did you guys know that Jesus was nailed to a cross? I mean, yes. No fan needs to see this anymore. We've seen it a million times. However, I'm going to defend this scene for 2 reasons. Number 1, it happened during the overture, so you never actually have important story being told during the overture anyway. if you even have film. A lot of times it's going to be audio and just, swerving around the bat symbol or something. So you didn't lose any film time by doing it. And number two, they did something that had never been done in a film adaptation of the death of Wayne's parents, which was Thomas and Martha Wayne fought back. That was big. And Thomas Wayne fought back instinctively. It wasn't, Martha's in danger, I'm going to try to defend her now, after the criminal started reaching for things. Thomas Wayne started by putting his son in a safe place and balling up a fist. This is an entirely different take on Thomas Wayne than we've ever seen. And honestly, it's one that helps to establish that Bruce Wayne is a fighter genetically. So I really did like this, and I'm glad that this part of the scene managed to make it into the film. The line, "We're not criminals, Alfred." We're criminals, Alfred. We've always been criminals. This is probably going to be the first of many times I say this. Fuck you, Zack Snyder. Bruce Wayne, Batman, should never say, "We're criminals." If you want to drive home the point, you have him say, "They will always think we're criminals," or "they will always question if we're criminals." Batman should never believe he is the bad guy. Once Batman believes he's the bad guy, he's no longer the Batman. Bad. You lose. No donut. Go home. The Nightmare Desert scene. I'm kind of twisted on this one. I really liked the Nightmare Desert scene. I liked all of the fan service that was in the scene with all of the Darkseid references, the parademons, the idea of Superman obviously being controlled by the anti-life equation. For fans, this was a great scene. For movies, for cinema, this was a bad scene. Number one, it does not forward the plot of this movie. It reinforces that Batman distrusts Superman. Oh, okay. You already told us that. And you didn't give us any new information to support it. You just showed Batman having a nightmare. It doesn't help support the storyline. What it does do is it spends 7 or 8 minutes, I think, selling me on the plot for your next movie. Before you've finished selling me on the movie I've already bought a ticket to. I don't like that idea. I came here I didn't pay $10 to watch a trailer. I came and paid $10 to watch a movie. Sell me on this movie. Get me interested in this movie, not the next one that you might or might not get to make if this one doesn't work well. As far as the Flash coming in and bouncing in with a flashpoint, again, only sets up the next movie. Does nothing for this one, especially because you never established that the Flash in this movie has that ability. More time, making this project work and less time telling me about your next. On top of that, there's an undercurrent of of Batman being somewhat supernatural in this film. You see him lifted on the air by the bats. And at first I'm saying that that's just, allegorical. You're using that as a demonstration of how he remembers the scene and isn't supposed to happen. Then all of a sudden Batman has temporal prescience and can see the new god's future of the world. So now you're putting in a whole nother level. Either both of them are related and it's supernatural, or the first one is just his memory and the second one is a temporal pocket. Like, you're doing things without explaining how they're working, and you're just taking up more time doing it. Wallace Keefe subplot. For anyone that missed the name, Wallace Keefe was the guy who had his legs amputated and was in the wheelchair. Unless you want to go with the assumption that Lex Luthor bought the majority of the finance department of Wayne Enterprises, which is not established, there's no way Lex would risk his plans by having 18 months of weekly paychecks being sent back. Intercepted? Yes. Sent back? No. Because it's way too much chance that somewhere along the line, Batman's going to figure out what's going on. I mean, and that's just it's a loophole for cinema's sake, and that's just bad storytelling. It totally makes sense from the last one, because that's where he tries to get, Bruce Wayne, Batman, more angry. But yeah, it just doesn't work. Batman gets upset that Wallace Keefe blew up the Capitol building in retaliation of what Superman did to try to kill Superman. So we're establishing that Batman is willing to blame people who helped cause psychotics for the actions of a psychotic. I really hope Wayne Manor doesn't have any mirrors in it anymore. The only reason that this scene is good for the movie is this is the scene that helps to establish Kal-El wondering if he does more harm than good. And anyone who thinks that Henry was wooden in this scene, they're not watching his facial features and watching his hands. He is nervous, he is distraught, and he doesn't understand what just went wrong. He knows what happened, he doesn't get how it got here. That scene is actually really well acted on a subdued kind of level. So that I really thought that worked well. The Pa Kent scene, perfectly done scene. This is traditional to your Superman stories. Superman always goes and gets help from a father figure. Either it is his Kryptonian father via the Fortress of Solitude, it's Pa Kent, it's a preacher or a religious figure as they did in the first movie. Superman, when he is confused, when he doesn't know what direction to turn, will always go to a paternal figure to try to get help. So they kept it traditional. What I didn't like was that they had the opportunity to not make it traditional and have him go to Ma Kent. And Ma Kent's scene was, be a hero, or don't. Whatever. I get that this situation is a parent's worst nightmare, and I get that she was trying to do right by her son, but it makes her a soft character because her morals become clouded based on the emotional protection of her child. And to me, I don't think that you can really question the morals of Ma and Pa Kent. I think that those need to be a standard in the universe. So, there's just, fanboyism, I guess. The Kryptonian scout ship, which accepts a human, which it can identify as a human, that somehow needed to use Kryptonian fingerprints to get in, accepts this human as its new master, and allows this human to override a decree from the council. No. Nothing in this scene works. It's a bioship. It can scan everyone on it. It knows that Zod's fingerprints were used to get into the ship. It knows that's not Zod. That should have set up a security alarm at the very least. Second, it allows this non-Zod to become the captain of the ship because reasons? The only reason to do that is if it knows that the captain of the ship is dead, and the only reason to have a human as captain is if there is no Kryptonian options. However, Kryptonian's fingerprints just unlock the door. The scene doesn't work. And the ship allowing anyone, even a Kryptonian captain, let alone a human, to override the decree of the council, really weak. I mean, the argument literally was borrowed from an episode of Red Dwarf. The Batman training montage. I guess Zack Snyder is really upset that he didn't get to direct Creed, because the training montages are generally used when a character is out of shape and trying to prepare for a fight that he needs to be in top shape for. That's useless in this case. Batman can't get into a top enough shape to be able to go blow for blow with Superman without using super science. So, show me Batman using his brain, not his muscles. Show me Batman developing the armor. Show me Batman working on the weaponry, which you did. Show me him preparing for the fight with his brain. Because one of the major problems in this movie, and often happens in Batman stories, is the world's greatest detective is played like a thug with toys because he has money. He's not played as a brilliant scientist. Show me a scientist winning things with science, because Batman's a scientist. He's a martial artist, second. He's a billionaire, arguably, second. The character is powerful because the character is a scientist. So the whole idea of a weight training, CrossFit, cutscene cycle, cool, great footage, looks nice, it's pretty, does nothing to advance the story, distracts us from the fact that you're not developing the story for another 8 minutes, and, like, really, like, the only thing you cut out was a scene of Alfred bringing Bruce Wayne a protein shake and counting his macros for him. Like, it was incongruent with everything else you're trying to tell. Then as far as the making of the kryptonite grenades, dude, you're making a Bat movie, Batman, bats. You have him making one, arguably two gadgets, the whole movie. You're only adding two things that Batman is building into the Batverse. And you make them 40mm grenades out of a 40mm grenade launcher and a really bland looking spear. You totally missed the opportunity to make bat grenades. You totally missed the opportunity to make them anything else bat related, even though you have him repeatedly using bat related devices everywhere else. The grapple gun flips out into a bat-shaped head when it attaches to things. The brand that he uses is a bat brand. His throwing stars are still bat shurikens. That's not the most efficient method. Why hasn't you changed that to the way you're changing everything else? It's incongruent for him not to make bat grenades, especially when he needs grenades for a guy he's expecting to punch. The reason you use a launcher is to be able to shoot them really, really far. It's actually harder to use a rifle-stocked launcher to hit something that is within punching range. It actually makes it harder for him to use the device, not easier. And I think I might have mentioned he's supposed to be a goddamn genius. The introduction of the rest of the Justice League via the trailer montage, this was seriously the best way you could come up with to introduce this information. Shoehorning in the trailers for the other movies in the middle of the movie, right before you go to the big fight. Literally, you're arguably building momentum during the training montage, which you stop to put in a scene that has pensive pauses between reading individual lines of dialogue and then showing footage. You suspended all of your build-up for the fight scene, the Batman versus Superman fight scene, the freaking plot of the movie, the title of the movie. You suspend to show me trailers from your next 3 projects. No. Sell me this movie. Get this movie to work. You get to the point where you're finally selling me on this movie, and you stop with an intermission between Acts 2 and 3 to go, thank you for watching our film. If you have enjoyed this, please enjoy our next 3 offerings as well. No, it doesn't work. On top of that, it doesn't work from a story perspective. You've demonstrated that Batman doesn't trust anyone who he doesn't know is human. He doesn't trust Superman because he's not human. Even saying, if there's a 1% chance that he could be bad, we have to act on absolute certainty that it is. He doesn't continue that over to Wonder Woman, who he has no information on. Literally asking, who are you? Knows that she looked the same in 1918 as she does 100 years later, thus she's obviously not human. I think I have the opportunity to say he has more than a 1% chance of believing that she's bad at this point. And he gives her detailed files on other people he also doesn't know about and doesn't know that they're also good guys. That's dumb. The world's greatest detective might have sent her picture, mostly so that he can try to ask her more questions. Or he might not have, because he wants answers first. But he absolutely would not offer even more information on other people that he hasn't had the chance to verify yet. I get that it's setting up your Justice League movie, but if you're setting up your movie using a badly defined plot point, You're setting up a badly defined film. Why bother? Batman versus Superman fight. Yeah, you get what you get. People are complaining that it looked too much like a punching sequence. Well, sorry, that's what Batman needs to be. This needs to be fisticuffs and maybe some judo and maybe some Krav Maga, but this needs to be in close, tight, brutal fighting because that's what Batman does. I don't have any problem with the way the scene was done. You get what you get. We knew that this was going to be a stand-and punch kind of scenario. I think that they tried to vary it up as much as they could. They used environmental attacks, which makes a lot of sense for Batman, assuming that he is still smart, which you didn't prove anywhere else in this film. But I think that the fight by itself, it stands up pretty well. It is what it is. You get 3 rounds of fighting. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is the fight ended with the 2 Marthas. Marthaception. I mean, this stops the fight. Really, guys? I'm guessing no one involved with this movie has ever been in a street fight or heard someone mention their mother's name while they're already upset and punching at something. Because let me tell you something. This doesn't stop a street fight, and this was most definitely a street fight. This gets you to punch the other guy harder, not less. Hi, I'm going to mention the name of your dead mother while you're threatening to kill me in the hopes that you don't kill me. No, squirk. That's all that happens right there. The scene's over. And your movie's over, and your universe is over. So you literally took this tongue-in-cheek thing that comic book fans have said for years, wow, isn't that weird? Their mothers have the same name, ha ha. And you turned it into a major plot point. It doesn't work. It gives more gravitas to the accidental naming convention than is deserved. It's just not solid. Birth of Doomsday. You've got a cave troll coming out of an Uruk-hai birthing pocket. Again, as far as this movie goes, the concept of the scene I think was a little bit weak. I'm okay with the elevation of Doomsday, i.e. the idea that as he gets stronger, as he gets tougher, he gets more rock-like, so that at the end of the movie, he's what we recognize as Doomsday. I'm okay with that device, but that doesn't make any sense to use that device, but then have your character have this grand reveal. Like, you do a grand reveal when you expect something to be impressive looking from the get-go. Otherwise, you don't have this monologue build-up from Lex Luthor. It leads to, I have brought your end, I have brought your doom, I have brought your doomsday, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It made it comical when that wasn't what you were going for, and it destroyed the delivery of the line, this is your doomsday. I wanted to see Doomsday as soon as you just called him by name. Instead, I got the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in gray. This scene, again, demonstrates why this is a great Superman movie. And the difference between Batman and Superman, even a good Batman, is Lex Luthor creates literally the device of his own death. Doomsday goes to swat Lex Luthor. Superman doesn't let it happen. Because that's not justice. This was beautiful. This was perfect. And this made the scene work. It reinforces that Superman is good. And literally was almost an afterthought in the shot. Obviously it was scripted. Obviously it was intended. But I think that this could have sold better if they had then cut back to Superman's face, cut again to Lex Luthor confused, cut back to Superman pulling away with Doomsday, and then keep going. In a movie where you're easily 30 minutes longer than you needed to be, putting in another 5 seconds to reinforce your principle isn't going to hurt you. The death of Superman. Dumb for Batman not telling Supes to hand the spear to Wonder Woman. I get that Batman was out of the shot at this point, because he was written that way, but you wrote it that way. Dumb for Wonder Woman to not do the job herself. Dumb for Supes to not hand it to Wonder Woman. Like, there's just lots of dumb. Again, something that Zack Snyder is really good at is forcing situations where heroes have to do things that they shouldn't do because, well, he doesn't have a choice now. By eliminating the opportunity of those choices having occurred earlier. Not the best as far as writing goes. Also, where did the lasso go? Doomsday, you clearly see, is held in position by the lasso of truth. Great job putting in the lasso of truth. His arms are bound to his sides by the lasso of truth. We can assume he is immobilized by the lasso based on the fact that he hasn't simply charged Wonder Woman to squish her. So the lasso is immobilizing Doomsday. The next thing we see, Superman impales Doomsday with a kryptonite spear. Doomsday grabs Superman and impales him on his stumpy hand. Totally okay with the stumpy hand impalement. But none of that can happen if the lasso is still around him. The lasso is not shown to not be around him, and in fact we never explain how the lasso is no longer around him. It didn't get cut by the spear. Nothing else is shown. He should still be under the effect of the lasso of truth. So how is he doing anything to Superman other than standing there and taking it? It's just bad storytelling, because you needed to have a way for Doomsday to be standing still long enough for Superman to hit him, so you used the lasso. You needed to have a way for Superman to die, so you had Doomsday not under the effect of the lasso. But you didn't transition, so you shouldn't have been able to get there, so that was bad storytelling. This is true for Snyder's work. Again, Snyder likes having stories where the hero fails or dies, thus demonstrating his heroicness. It's a little bit emo, but it's his thing. I can get it. I liked it in Watchmen. I liked it in 300. I can't complain about it now. But much like he did in Man of Steel, he set up a series of improbable situations to force the hero to have to do something, when those improbable situations probably shouldn't have happened. Where did the lasso go? Superman's funeral. I liked this. I really, really liked this, and I thought it was done better than in the comic book. Metropolis mourns the loss of a family member, Smallville mourns the loss of one of their own, and the U.S. tries to bury a soldier. This was great because it helped to demonstrate, again, the multiple faces of Superman. His family buries a family member. His city mourns the loss of their hero, and the country mourns the loss of a defender. You get to play with the three personas of Superman in a different way than anybody ever had before. This I really thought was ingenious, and it helped to demonstrate that Superman is different things to different people. I thought this scene was incredibly well done. Also, if you're going to have Superman come back due to, UV radiation coming through, it makes more sense if he's in the pine box rather than in Death of Superman, where he would have been in the steel box in black with the sigil on it. I liked the throwback casket, by the way. Nice touch, didn't have to do it, but a nod to the fans. Those are always cool. The Lex ending scene, back again to weird supernatural shit with Batman that shouldn't happen. The guards sneak away quietly, or are in on Batman interrogating someone in a jail cell, or Batman deals with the guards, or Batman jumps into a pocket dimension with Lex Luthor. Like, you don't really know what's going on here, except that it doesn't make sense. And then Lex knows about the sequel. He knows about Darkseid. He knows about this. Why? Again, you're just setting up the next movie, and you're not helping this movie to work. The only part of this that makes this movie work is that Batman no longer uses the brand that he should have never freaking been using in the first place. Sorry. Superhero dressed in tights that punches a brand into people, not Batman. You tried to make the Phantom, sir. You picked the wrong Golden Age hero. This scene, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. And just adds to more confusion about how many people know that Darkseid is coming and how. I get the time ripples thing that you didn't explain, but yeah, it's... Unless I know Flashpoint, I don't understand how your movie works. And you got to expect that most people that are going to go to this movie, if you're going to make $1 billion, are not familiar with Flashpoint. Wonder Woman's final scene. More supernatural premonitions from Batman with the, I just have a feeling. You can kind of disguise it in that he just thinks there's going to be more bad people in the world. It's okay. But I shouldn't have to try to justify to myself that the non-supernatural character isn't being supernatural. I should never need to justify that. Yeah, Darkseid is coming. Great. Thank you for putting the post-credit scene during the movie. I kind of like that you didn't just rip off Marvel and did it in the film instead. But you did it more times than you addressed the plot of this movie. I don't understand why that was necessary, unless for some reason you really thought that the studio wasn't going to let you use Darkseid, or wasn't going to let you direct the next one, and you really wanted to make sure you shoehorned it in. The idea of no post-credits scene, a lot of people are getting uppity on that. I think it's smart. I think it works. You don't need to copy everything Marvel does. And if you're already not copying tone, which is the best thing you should copy that Marvel does, there's no reason to copy their scening sequence. Let that be their thing. Have setting up the next movie during this plot of the movie your thing. That's totally cool. Character portrayals, Batman becomes the world's dumbest detective. Just totally misses the boat. Literally misses the boat. Batman needs to defeat villains with his mind, not his muscles, not his money. His mind. He gets played by Lex? No. He's tracking the white Portuguese for more than 5 fucking minutes and hasn't done a registry search to see if there's anything else called the white Portuguese. That's just failure for due diligence. I mean, there's not a single writer that wouldn't have done that. Not a single director that wouldn't have done that. Like, not a single investigator that wouldn't have done that. It doesn't make any sense for him not to know that the white Portuguese is a ship instead of a person. Can't figure out if Superman is good or not. I'm sorry. That's literally the job description for a detective. He gives a bunch of data on metahumans to a woman he doesn't know and doesn't trust yet. Superman was perfect. The conflict was internal versus external. I think he was well designed. Lex, I'm not going to get upset at the way a lot of people are, because to me it felt more like one of the Lex clones gone wrong. And I'm okay with that. We don't know for a fact that it's not, because we don't know for a fact what Lex Luthor's father was supposed to look like, because he's never shown. I did kind of get upset at the fact that he's basically just an anti-authoritarian. I mean, you turn Lex Luthor basically into the most insane libertarian ever. He is just upset with anyone who tries to use authority to tell him that he can't do things because he should be able to do things. I don't know. I think Trey Manor would have been a better choice for that role than the actor they used at that point. But no, I was okay with Lex. I'm not mad at Lex. It's a different look for Lex. It's a millennial Lex. But I think that even a millennial Lex could have been better written. Alfred being a scientist instead of a doctor makes sense. I can dig it. You're reversing something that's been on the character for 60 years, but times change, and he's still something other than a butler, so it works for me. Ben Affleck, solid performance. Henry Cavill, stellar performance. People that think he's acting wooden, he's not overacting. His movements are subtle. I literally have been trained in reading body language, so to me, there's not a single scene where he's not giving me volumes of work. But I can understand where if you don't know what you're looking for, you're probably going to need to watch the movie 3 or 4 times before you start to understand his use of that character, which is fine. Gal Gadot, I thought, was very solid as a Wonder Woman. People are saying she's not butch enough. Honestly, she's just as butch as the way Wonder Woman has been drawn for most of the existence of Wonder Woman. Amy Adams, I thought, was very solid as Lois. I like the way her role was portrayed. I'm not a lady, I'm a journalist. It worked. She was strong of conviction. She was strong of moral turpitude. She was very good without becoming militant. She didn't need to act. That was Superman's job. Her job was to be a supporting character with a strong conviction, and I think that this was the best Lois Lane portrayal I've seen just for that reason. Jesse Eisenberg, I thought, did a good job with the Luthor bit, again, as I just discussed. I just don't understand why no one in this movie can give a speech. Every time someone's in front of a microphone, you need to do this surreal, we're going to have a disruption to talk strange, to build suspense for what comes next. It was a device that I thought was overused and not used well. Diana Lane, I thought was okay. She really didn't do much. Lawrence Fishburne, I thought did a great job. Jeremy Irons was the audience member in the movie. He did a great job as Alfred. He literally mocked bad plot points, bad script points in the movie, which means you knew they were bad when you did them. So why are they in there? Just so that your tertiary support character can put in an quip? Alfred has always needed to be the Shakespearean gatekeeper character, and I think they did a great job with that here. But again, that character should point out the foils and flaws in the protagonists, not in the script writing. So that was a bit off. Holly Hunter, I think, did an excellent job with the role she was given, but again, she can't finish a speech. It is what it is. Overall, I feel that this movie was The Dark Knight Returns meets Death of Superman, meets Civil War, meets Attack of the Appallachians, meets Final Crisis, meets Injustice, meets Flashpoint. If that sounds like too much to fit into 2 hours, that's because it is. This movie had a lot of things in it that it didn't need. It didn't deliver the things that it did need. I thought it was an excellent sequel to a bad Superman movie that at so many points apologized for the last Superman movie. Batman getting involved the way he does, apologizes for Man of Steel. The fact that when you get down to the throwdown between Superman and Doomsday, the news report literally says, "Don't worry, no one's downtown. We're not killing innocents. We're sorry for the last film." I think they did a good job of fixing things that arguably were broken or weren't done well the first time. To the point where I think this is a standalone film. I don't think you need to see Man of Steel to see this movie. Which questions, if they can do that with this, why did they need this movie to set up the Justice League rather than just use the first 45 minutes or so of a Justice League movie to pull characters together? I think this movie failed at being an introduction to the Justice League, in that it didn't introduce the Justice League and demonstrated that maybe they didn't need to. I think it fails at being a good Batman movie, mostly because I don't believe that it sold me on Batman getting to where he is. Batman's moral compass has always been Alfred. Alfred is still alive. Batman shouldn't get to the point where he is this jaded, this dark, this lost in the woods if Alfred is still alive. I get that he lost a Robin. I get that he's old and he's realizing he hasn't made the change in the world that he expected he would. I get all of these directions from a cinematic perspective, but that's what Alfred is there for. Alfred puts him on the right track. That's what Alfred does. And the fact that Alfred was still alive, yet Bruce Wayne is off track, really disrupted for me the idea that Batman could get to where he was. And for that reason alone, I think it was a poorly designed Bat film, on top of the, 1 for 4. Great Superman movie. As far as a superhero movie in general, if for some reason you don't know who these two characters are, I think you can come to this movie as just somebody that wants to watch a bang-up action superhero flick, and it's okay. You don't need to know anything that's not in this film. You don't need to know Batman's history. You don't need to know Superman's history. Superman is a hero that people are questioning. Okay. Batman is a vigilante because his parents were murdered and he doesn't know that he trusts anyone else to do that role except him. Okay. Lex Luthor is a billionaire megalomaniac that has a problem with anyone having any authority but him. Okay. Those points are developed. I think if you made this movie, blank man versus blank dude, I don't think anybody has a problem with it. I think if you did that, it's fine. The problem is that I feel that it did not properly demonstrate the properties you were utilizing, and that's where the problem came in. Anyway, I want to thank you for letting me ramble this long. If anybody has any questions or wants any more feedback, comment below. Other than that, please, up on my banner bar, there's a couple buttons up there for different projects of mine. Please buy my projects. Please support me by supporting the companies that hire me, because that is the best way for me to keep writing. Please subscribe to my Patreon page. You can read stuff that I only post there for backers for as little as $1. Pick up my properties from Monolith, and Other than that, thank you very much for waiting this long, and I'll talk to you guys soon.